Hello there, it's Carrie Rhodes here. Welcome back to my YouTube channel. In today's card making video, I'm focusing on the Hemstitch Slimline Die set from Spellbinders, and I will be making 2 cards showcasing this die set. You can see here that these dies make some amazing detail. There are 6 dies in this set, 3 that cut rectangles and 3 that cut some detailing into those rectangles that are kind of like polka dots and a stitch combined. They layer together to cut out these stitched rectangles, and then they layer on top of each other once die cut. I love to use my tool-in-one to get out all those fallout pieces. Don't forget to rub it from the front and the back, and then you can do this when it's in the die and after it comes out of the die. I only had 2 pieces I had to poke out with the piercer, and I didn't have any left in the die, so that was fabulous. There are all 3 sizes. You can see how they layer up together, and they are so much fun with that extra detail. Next, I am bringing in this Hello Sunflower stamp set from Spellbinders and using this to create today's cards. I'm taking that largest rectangle, which is 8.5 by 3.5, and stamping that for a background for my first card. I'm using this Honey Drizzle ink from Altenew to stamp out the largest sunflower randomly over this panel, and that will create a kind of DIY printed paper look. I love stamping out my own backgrounds. So once I have the largest flower all covered on that background, I'm going to fill in the open spaces with the smaller sunflower, so it's really full. And because this is white paper with yellow ink, it is kind of more subtle, so I felt like I could get away with making it super tight with all those flowers. I'm also stamping out this smaller sunflower with black ink, and I'm going to Copic color it. So I'm using E59 for the center, E14 for the lightest color on my leaf, and then I'll bring in G28 for the darker color, adding in those shadows, and then I'll bring back my G14 and blend that out. And I have the edge left white, so when I color over it again, that green will be very light and create its own type of highlight. Next, I am coloring the sunflower. I have YR15 as my darkest color. Y17 is my mid-tone, so I'm softening out that darkest color, blending out the edges, and then my lightest color is Y15, and I will go ahead and blend out those 3 colors again with that color. And then I will bring back in my Y17 and go over it one more time just to really perfect the blend. I like going over it a couple times to really get the blend I'm looking for. So that is the sunflower that's going to go on this card, and I thought it would look really good with some white highlights, so I brought out my Jelly Roll pen and did that. Next, I'm going to fussy cut this out. I am turning the paper with my left hand while cutting with my right. That is the best way I found to do fussy cutting. I did not used to be very good at it, but lots of practice and learning that tip really helped me with fussy cutting. So now I'm stamping the sentiment on the smallest of the 3 rectangles with some milk chocolate ink. I really wanted it darker than it looked when I stamped it the first time, so I stamped it a few times to really darken that color. Next, I am bringing in ground espresso distress oxide ink, smooshing it onto a window sheet, and then wetting a paintbrush to water up this ink for splattering. It's a scraggly paintbrush, and I'm dragging it across the edge of this window sheet. It creates a really fine splatter that's not so distracting, but really makes that background look more like printed paper with a little extra design element on it. So I glued that onto my 8.5 by 3.5 inch slimline card base, and then I'm adding my Hello Sunshine panel to a green layer, so it has the green showing through that hem stitch border. I added a strip of corrugated paper through the center, and then to mount my sentiment over the top of that, I'm going to use some double stick tape and liquid glue because it's a very textured paper. I want to make sure that this is not going to go anywhere. And having the liquid glue also gives me the opportunity to move that around and get it centered right where I want. I'll glue the flower into place right next to the sentiment, and then it needed a little something more, so I brought in these gold mix gem stickers. There is a metallic gem here that has a brownish gold tint to it, perfect for today's card. So I'm going to put 6 of those on there using my fine tip tweezers. These are so great for these type of embellishments because they have such a super fine point to them. So they were really helpful for that. I thought this card needed a little something on the inside, so I inked up that largest sunflower with some milk chocolate ink and stamped it on the inside, and I thought it looked gorgeous in there. So that is card number 1. Those slimline dies add such amazing detail. I love it. For card number 2, I'm creating a shaker, so I'm taking that medium-sized rectangle and die cutting the center of it with the smallest rectangle die, and then I cut another large rectangle with the hem stitch in the edge, and that will be the background for this card. And again, using that tool-in-one to get rid of all those fallout pieces, and it makes it so easy. I had no pieces stuck in my die again. So now I am using the largest sunflower and milk chocolate ink to stamp up this craft colored background. I'm only using the largest flower this time, and I'm loving how that turned out for my background. I'm also splattering this one with the same ground espresso distress oxide ink, and this might be my favorite background. It is so, I don't know, so pretty. All right, so I am gluing on a window sheet to the back of this medium-sized rectangle. Then I'm going to add some foam tape to that. Now the foam tape I had was the exact width of this frame, so I had to be really careful and slow so that it did not show on the inside of my frame or the outside. And there you can see it, and the window sheet covers up the hem stitching, so I didn't have to worry about those holes being sticky from my tape. Now I am stamping out that largest sunflower in black ink. I already had it on my block, so I decided to stamp it with my block instead of my MISTI. But my tip is the longer you hold your stamp on your paper, the more ink will transfer. So I like to do that and be careful of that when stamping with an acrylic block versus a stamping tool. So it really comes out crisp that way. All right, so now I am using the same markers I used for the first sunflower, but I'm starting with my lightest color this time because it's a bigger area and I can go back and forth between the markers more easily than with a smaller image, because the smaller images can like bleed out if you blend too much. So I started with the lightest, brought in the darkest, and now I'm going over that darkest area and extending it out with my midtone, which is Y17, and then going back with my lightest, Y15. And I love this sunflower. So fun to color. I love how it's so realistic looking. Super cool set. All right, so I'm going to now add white highlights and cut out this sunflower. So sometimes I have excess paper. I like to remove that, and it makes the cutting much easier when I have less paper to work with. Again, turning the paper with my left hand, cutting with my right, such a helpful tip for me, and I don't mind fussy cutting as much since I learned that. So there's the large sunflower. Next, I'm going to build my shaker. So I have these sequins here. I believe it's from a Hero Arts kit. I've had them for a while, but it has that yellow and orange mix that is very similar to the colors I used in the sunflower. And then I'm going to use some seed beads that are gold from the Crescent Creations shop, and I will link that shop for you below as well. I get a lot of my seed beads and sequins and embellishments from them, as well as they have digital stamps in the shop as well. That's brand new. It's very exciting. So I added a window sheet to the back of this to enclose it, so it was easier to add to my slimline card, which is a tip from one of my friends, Cassie. Thank you, Cassie. I use that tip all the time, and it works really good. So now I added a little scrap paper to the back of this sunflower because I wanted it to be more sturdy, and there's kind of a little bit of a dip from the frame to the window sheet, and so having this sunflower be more sturdy was really helpful when gluing it down. I stamped "You Are Beautiful" on a scrap of green cardstock. I'm just freehand cutting this down. It didn't need to be perfect because I'm going to rough up the edges of it with my scissors to distress that and give it a little bit of texture and interest. And then I can go ahead and adhere this to my card, and it says "You Are Beautiful." So I'm adding a piece of that corrugated paper again, roughing up the edges and gluing it down so the left-hand side is coming out from underneath that sunflower, and then my "You Are Beautiful" will go right over the top of that and overlap the sunflower just a little bit. And now it's time to add this to the card base. Again, 8.5 by 3.5, and I used a dark brown cardstock. I love the dark brown showing through that stitching. So there are the 2 cards for today. I love this Slimline die set. It's always nice to have layering sets, and ones that add a little bit of interest and detail are so fun to have. By the way, you could add stitching to this hem stitch. Wouldn't that be cool? I thank you so much for stopping by and visiting me today. I would love to hear from you. What do you think of this die set and these cards? Leave a comment below so we can chat. And if you like this video, let me know with a thumbs up. I will be back again very soon with another video just for you. So if you're new here, feel free to subscribe and ring the little bell. I'll catch you then. Happy stamping. Bye.